Hey there. A few days ago, I was tagged in a video by Jon Cothran. His YouTube channel is In the Woods with Bigfoot. And the challenge, the tag was a challenge to share my 5 greatest adventures. I got to tell you that I had to think about that long and hard, because I've had a lifetime of adventures of one sort or another, and you know, after giving it some thought, I made me a few little notes, and here we go. Adventure number 1. Now, I've got to tell you that I've got to be one of the most fortunate men in the world, because my dear wife Shirley, she loves to camp as much as I do, and we've had, you know, we have had so many great experiences camping, and we generally don't camp in hot weather. We prefer cooler weather, fall, in this part of the country, winter, and then spring type weather for camping. And we've had some really interesting experiences, like the time the front blew through, and the temperature, it dropped from in the 60s during the day to it was well below freezing at night. Our dog's water bowl froze, and froze solid, but things like that. And I got to tell you, folks, I won the lottery when Mrs. David Crolick Outdoors said I do to this one. Now, there's been too many great adventures. Like this spring, we went out on a spring camping tour, and we camped in 5 states this spring, and that was a great experience. Saw a lot of stuff, and mostly exploring places where we would like to go back to. And one of the things that in that tour that we discovered was that not only does the wind blow really hard off of that lake in northeast Georgia, but blows hard and cold, but there's some beautiful places in Georgia that we would like to go back and visit and camp and that sort of thing. The second greatest adventure, and by the way, Shirley and I, we've been doing this type of stuff all of our marriage, and now that we're retired, it's great to be able to just take off during the week when the weather's nice. If we want to go someplace to camp, we do, instead of waiting for the weekend and having to deal with crowds of people and that sort of thing. But adventure number 2, something that's taken place here in the last couple of years. In fact, October 21st will be the 2nd anniversary for this little deal. And I swatted a mosquito now and then. They're not landing or biting, but want to get right by my ear and buzz. And I'm using the Natural Repel insect repellent that's got picaridin in it. And was, you know, if I didn't have it on, these things would be carrying me off to the top of the trees and having me for lunch. But adventure number 2 was, and continues to be, not only was but continues to be, is our adventure of downsizing from a 1,250 square foot home on 3/4 of an acre in a really nice neighborhood, if you can call it a neighborhood. We called it the Rhuburbs, It wasn't really rural anymore. I remember when it was farmland, where our house was at was a field, but it's not really rural anymore, but it's not really suburbs. You know, there's a lot of large acreages and that sort of thing, and but we downsized from 1,250 square feet living space on 3/4 of an acre with a lot of lawn work to do, to a little tiny cabin in the woods. And that was it was a 5-year plan. First we got a train over here, now we've got an airplane over here. We live in the woods, but we're still affected by stuff. Actually a helicopter going by. And it took us 5 years of working a plan, staying focused on that plan. And we had to be flexible enough to where we'd weave a little this way, weave a little that way, make an adjustment here, make an adjustment there. But we kept going in that line toward our goal of being able to retire and live very simply. And we love it. And it was an adventure to get to this point, and it is still an adventure because our lifestyle has changed so significantly that, you know, we wake up in the morning and our time is ours, and that was an adventure. And I would wish that everybody could have that type of an adventure and get to that point, but it definitely demanded a particular mindset to be able to go from that lifestyle to this lifestyle. And we love it. We love everything about it. Now, the third greatest adventure, I have to say that in these top 5 adventures, one of them was mentoring a group of youth in outdoor skills. And they thought that they understood that they were learning survival skills, and they were. They were under the understanding that they were learning bushcraft skills, and they were. But at the same time, they were learning a lot more. They were learning a lot of life skills, and working with these guys for almost 2 years was one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. And I want to encourage everybody that does bushcraft, or whatever you want to call it, bushcraft, woodcraft, getting out in the woods, camping, whatever. Don't keep it to yourself. Find some kids in your neighborhood, or some nieces and nephews, or somebody, especially you older guys out there that's got tons of experience. Find some kids and pass it on, because it's a beautiful world out here. It takes skills and good sense to get out here and do the things that we do without hurting ourselves or any of those kind of things. Now, I'm also have begun a new group. Shirley and I have of youth, mentoring them in those same things, and we're looking forward to where that's going and the things that we're going to be doing with these guys, and that's definitely right there in the top 5. In the top 5, I'd have to say my experience camping on the Cumberland Plateau. We had purchased a piece of property on the Cumberland Plateau north of Pikeville, Tennessee. And our plan, that mosquito right there in front of my nose, that our plan was to retire on that mountain in Tennessee and basically do up there what we're doing here. But my daughter convinced me that one day Shirley and I were going to get old, and she and her husband would have to go up there and load us up and bring us back down here. And so here we are. We're still in Lower Alabama, but we're in the woods and we're in a small cabin and we're doing our thing, and it's a beautiful thing. But we purchased the property in the fall of the year, and I went back up in April the following spring, and I took a tent, and the property had never been lived on. Beautiful piece of property. Had springs, a number of springs on it. So, you know, water would have never been a problem. Excuse me. I may have inhaled a mosquito. So I got up there and I set up camp the first day, and at 2 o'clock in the morning I could hear something walking in the leaves. Deep, thick bed of hardwood leaves, and unlike anything that I'd ever listened to and ever heard. It was a stalking sound. And long story short, at 2 o'clock in the morning I had a cougar, a mountain lion, stalking my tent with me in it. And that was an experience of a lifetime, I assure you that. And something that I'm glad I had, at the same time that I'm glad I had it. I hope I never have it again. That was an adventure of a different sort. Now, that's the fourth. The fifth greatest adventure that I'll mention, and like I said earlier, it was really difficult for me to narrow this down to 5, but right in that top 5, I'd have to say, back in February of 2010, I was planning a solo hike on the Conecuh Trail in the Conecuh National Forest. And it was sort of an open-ended thing. I wasn't in a hurry. I think the Conecuh Trail is 20 or 22 miles. And I'm not one of these guys that goes and because it's 20 miles, I'm going to make it in a day or anything like that. I go, I find a spot that I like, I set up and I stay. And if it takes me several days to do 20 miles, so be it, you know, no big deal. But my daughter came over to see me and asked to go along. Said she wanted to do that with me. And at first I was not in favor of it. It was something I'd looked forward to doing solo, and she said, "I promise you, Dad, I won't be a burden. I'll tote my own load, and it'll be okay." So that's what we did, and we spent 4 days, 4 days and 3 nights. We didn't do the whole trail. That was not the objective. At one point, we were 8 miles deep in. We were 8 miles away from the truck. That was the second night out, and it was a real adventure. Cold. It didn't start out cold. The weather people said that we had a 30% chance of rain that first night out. I believe it was Monday. And that 30% happened right on top of us in the middle of the night, and it rained all night. Hard rain, terrible hard rain. And we were both soaking wet. We had good sleeping bags, so we didn't get cold, but everything was wet. And then it got cold. Lower Alabama, really cold weather, and below freezing at night and that sort of thing. But that was a great, right in the top 5, experiencing that sort of environment, those types of in the wild, in the bush challenges with my daughter. And she was a real trooper. And she was just getting over a knee injury at the time, and we weighed her pack. Her pack weighed 32 pounds before putting water on it, and she was carrying that on her back, and plus her water, and that was great. Now, one of the things about this is I'm supposed to tag 4 people, and that was something else that I gave a lot of thought to. And the first person that I'm going to tag to do a response, a video response, is a brother here in Alabama, Mark Hudson. His YouTube channel is Bama Bushcraft, somebody that I have recently gotten to know, and I really appreciate the guy. He's got some terrific skills, and so I'm going to tag Mark in this. I also want to tag Jim Blanchard in Canada, Muskrat Jim at Muskrat Survival. Great YouTube channel. Jim's a great guy. I really respect what he's doing. For me, he's a tremendous inspiration, and thanks, Jim, for what you're doing. Another international tag, Blythe Victor at Bushcraft Ukraine. Another individual that I have a lot of respect for. I enjoy the content that he puts on the Bushcraft Ukraine channel. And then the 4th tag, Lee Burton at Burton Outdoors in England. Another great guy. Not necessarily a quote bushcrafter, but a wild camper that goes out, hangs his hammock in trees, and pitches his tent wherever. And I always enjoy watching Lee's videos. It's always good for me to see how people are doing what I do in other places in the world. So there you have it, folks. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you subscribing to David Kralik Outdoors. Be looking for a bushcraft style video coming up in a couple of weeks. A bunch of us are going to get together at a place called Open Pond in the Conecuh National Forest and spend a weekend, summer weather weekend, camped and hanging out and doing bushcraft stuff. So that's coming up. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you subscribing. And I'll see you on the next one.